For me, to be able to do repetitive innovation boils down to a very simple thing, which is one of my core values, which is eternal curiosity. Curiosity will kill me one day, but I love it. I also love working with people, and my main focus field when working with people is dealing with complexity. Something about it just fascinates me. But working with it is a core challenge as well, especially today where things are moving really fast. But to just highlight what I mean by complexity, I want you to think about the coffee cup some of you have in your hands, or by your feet, or maybe you just kicked it over and spilled it. It's like how to make an ideal coffee cup. What should you think about? So the obvious place to start would be, well, it's functional. You're supposed to drink something hot with it and not burn your lips, etc. And then you come to material. Material would be nice. Paper is preferable, but when you choose a certain type of paper, you're also choosing which forest to cut down somewhere. And also, the type of coffee cup will also influence what kind of coffee goes in it. What kind of coffee beans. If you follow the coffee bean, you're also making an impact in someone's income, in someone's community, in someone's family. And there's one more thing. A coffee cup has also to do about a social setting. Enjoying a big cup of coffee in a meeting will lead you to what I'm doing now on stage, which is shaking a little bit because I'm super excited. But it's quite a valid point just to bring it up. And how do we deal with all this complexity? And that's sort of been my main challenge in life, is to find ways to work with complexity and people, which led me to this, which is the systems-oriented design, which is to try to bring some of the systems theory and thinking into the design process. So I'm going to talk through a few examples, 2 cases. I'm going to share some insights in how I work with complexity. It has to do with 3 main points. So everything around us is in some way related or connected. So thinking in systems helps. But systems are complex and big, so making them visual and accessible helps. But it's also the fact that when you're doing these things, your main agenda is to find relevant solutions to real problems. So I'm going to use 2 cases to explain before and after I met this, before it changed the way I was thinking. Which first starts with this guy, which is a guy puking. I was in Finland doing research for a cruise ship project. The idea was to redesign the cruise ship experience, and for me as a student, this was fantastic. Imagine all the things you can do. We started doing our field work, starting in the day. Lunch, shopping, tax-free, buffet, and everything we could change a little bit. There was a booking and everything. And then we got to the evening, to the bar, and the disco, and the dance floor. And around from the corner, this guy walks. He takes off his shirt, pulls his pants down to his ankles, dance and shout, and eventually puke before someone takes him away. And I was left there with this feeling like, how do I deal with this? This is a part of the cruise ship experience. How can I deal with it? So we did the most obvious thing we could think of, is we took the ship and split it into parts. I got the disco part, trying to deal with this guy, and I did everything right. I redesigned the place, the interior service they provide, and someone else took the business model and the booking and the marketing and all the other parts. But I came to realize that I cannot really solve my part without collaborating with the other parts. And we didn't really figure that one out until the project was over and we presented it, and the guy from the company said, well, nice, but I'm not sure what to do with this. All these pieces. The one thing we were lacking was the shared understanding of what we were working with. I'm going to take you now into a small experiment just to kind of make this point very clear. So I want everyone, I will do the same, to close your eyes. I'm not going to open mine, so please do close your eyes. So I'm going to tell a story and just follow my instructions from here. Imagine you're going into an airport, you're going to the check-in terminal, which now have these fancy small machines. There's a big line in front of you, roughly 7 people. Behind you, there's 4 people. The one directly behind you is chewing a bubble gum with the mouth open, and it's such a pain, and you're trying the hardest to block out that sound, and suddenly you can't fail to realize that they open the machine next to him, and the entire queue behind you moves past you, and suddenly you're behind 2 queues. Now spend a moment to think, how do you describe the situation? How do you explain this obvious service challenge? And how do you work with it? But first, how do you visualize it? So open your eyes again. Based on my own experience, in this room now we will have some diagrams, some bullet points, some statistics, we'll have some poetry, we'll have some stories, some pictures and moving images. How do we collaborate? So what I was at that point at Oslo School of Architecture and Design, and I spoke to Adrian Paulsen, who's the godfather of system-oriented design. And he told me about the gigamap. This one way of bringing all the insight together into one piece of paper and to build on it and iterate on it until you have something that everyone can share and together work on top of. A boundary object between different ways of thinking. So the next project I'm going to tell you about, I went to visit a ship wharf. They do repairs on ship. And my agenda there was to help them facilitate a strategic change. From repairing ships to providing service on ships, continuously providing service on ships, keeping them on the ocean rather than in the dry docks. So the first thing we did in the project was to build this model of a ship arriving, a ship being fixed, and the ship leaving. Because that was the mindset we wanted everyone to know this is what it means to provide a service on a ship. We used this model on every conversation we had, on every meeting and workshop. We all brought this one along. So everyone started to build this understanding of what this project was all about. We created the boundary object, and for me as a facilitator, it was a way of rapid learning. Really quickly understand, how is this place actually running? How does it work? How does it not work? One thing I want to mention on this point is that when you take someone's picture, their box, their understanding of what they do, and you open it up, it's filled with assumptions. This is not an easy thing to deal with, because you know when someone breaks your assumptions, you feel kind of bad. It's not a comfortable thing. But it's an important thing in order to realize what is the context you're actually trying to make a change within. So what we try to do is to use these kind of models to build a place where you can invite people in and gain ownership of this process. So getting to know the company and getting to know themselves is a shared experience, a collaborative experience. And we build sort of confidence and ownership, and we make ambassadors, so that when we move into the really nitty super details and we find something that doesn't work, they kind of see the bigger picture as well, and they don't take it that personally. They gain new relations and understanding across the company, from the boardroom to the guy bending pipes. And the guy bending pipes actually plays a very important role. A part of their strategy was to be more efficient, and they kept losing tools. So every time a ship came in, they went in, fixed it, and the ship left with some tools once in a while. Or the tool shed was a bit of a mess. So they had this idea, we should buy a tool sorting robot. Yes. Even I went like, yes, robot. I love robots. I really wish I could work on a robot. But we were having this conversation with this big piece of paper on the wall, and it's 1 meter in height and 4 meters long. And this conversation kind of sidetracked a bit because someone in the room mentioned that the time of the day we keep losing the tools is actually more around coffee breaks and lunches. Because we have to move from where we work to the cafeteria, and we just leave our tools. So we would come back, someone else looked, I need that, and they pick it up and move along. So what if we, instead of buying a sorting robot, we move the coffee break from the canteen to the tool shed? What better incentive do you have to bring your tools than to see everyone else doing the same thing, right? But that was just finding a way to trigger the system this place built, to find that potential that's hidden deep inside the complexity, but it takes a while to get there. It takes a while to take an entire group of people and lift them up to a shared understanding of the challenge. This kind of completes the circle for me. This is sort of what I've been striving for, to find a way to rapidly build up a big picture of a situation, turn it into a tool that allows me to work with complexity and with people. And I know I make it sound a little bit easy now, and usually like around that step it's really hard because you're digging into something and you're breaking assumptions and you're working with people that suddenly realize, I have no idea what the guy bending pipes actually does. He's got a procedure. but he doesn't follow it. So what you also do when you find these mappings is that you also dig up more pieces and you figure out how that company's challenges fit in together with the focus of the assignment. So you bring the company in around the challenge and you connect them all to them. Because even if we don't like to admit it, companies, at least growing a bit in scale, they become a marketplace of their own. And competition and blame games happen. But what I do believe in is to create these pictures, to bring them together around the needed innovation, and to find the trigger points within the system to actually change them and help them change them. But my role being a facilitator, I'm just going to help them make that picture. So the object, the idea of creating a boundary object is something I find incredibly important in the context of innovation. But what's really hard, if you go back to the coffee cup, how big of a picture should we have to make the coffee cup? How many hours can we spend to figure out where it ends and begins? And that's actually one of our main challenges, especially in repetitive innovation, is how big of a scope can we build around a given project, because everything around us is changing rapidly. But I do have one feeling, that these processes can be just your insight, your way of really treating insight into a project as something really valuable. For me as a facilitator, making these imageries, I consider them in their own right a design object. They're something that lives past the projects that are put up in cafeterias or in boardrooms, because they are the most representative picture of what's actually happening. So breaking this assumption is really important, but it's hard. Like I said, I would love no more thing than that robot to be the answer. It would have been great. I think I'll just land there. All right. Thank you for your attention.